Hello, everybody, and welcome to Taproom Payment Processing 101. Payment processing shouldn't feel confusing or techy. And today I'm joined by Jake with Reliable Payments to break it down in a way that actually makes sense for us. This session on Payment Processing 101 is going to give you a clearer understanding of what to look for. We're going to walk through how merchant services actually work, what fair and compliant pricing looks like, and why transparency around fees matter. We'll also talk about omni-channel solutions, meaning how your taproom, online store, and events can all talk to each other instead of living in separate worlds. And finally, we're going to touch on what good support should look like, because when something goes wrong, you want someone who picks up the phone and helps fix it fast. But first, let's meet Jake. Jake, how is your Tuesday going?
Tuesday is great. Beautiful day here in Virginia. Excited to be hanging out with you, Andrew.
No, I'm pumped for this as well. This is probably a conversation we should have had years ago. We had one of these 101 style ones on just point of sale systems, and it was really valuable for a lot of people and crappy professionals. But today we're here to talk about payment processing. But first, Jake, tell us a little bit about yourself and Reliable Payments.
Sure. Jake Hollingsworth, Virginia born and bred. I currently reside with my wife and 4 kids in Richmond, Virginia. I have been in the payment processing space for 15 plus years now. I currently serve as the Chief Revenue Officer for a company called Reliable Payments. Again, another community-built, community-focused payment solutions provider. We are a full-service payment solutions provider, which means that we can help any business accept payments for the goods and services that they provide.
So how did you even end up in this space, Jake?
Well, that's a really good question. I got out of college, didn't know what I wanted to do, got into sales, was working on loans, lines of credit, debt consolidation, and then my company consolidated with another bank, and all of a sudden I became a bank manager. Well, I think my district manager and myself both realized that was not what was best suited for me, and I found that I really enjoy working with business owners and nonprofits. And the easiest avenue from where I currently was in the financial arena was something called merchant services. Before I got into that, Andrew, I did not know or think about who processes those payments. I just assumed Visa hands everybody a terminal and you start running payments.
It's magic, right?
Correct. Yes. Yes.
So that leads us to a question I think is going to help set the tone for today. Yeah. Jake, first off, what's the difference between a POS system and a payment processor?
Yes. Contrary to popular belief, point of sale or POS can mean 2 different things. A POS is someone you call, someone you're not very fond of. A point of sale is really everything that a business would need to effectively run their business. So the way we try to break it down is your point of sale solution should be able to manage your inventory, should be able to manage your customers and their user experience on processing payments within your retail location. And the last piece is really managing your employees as well. So a point of sale really could be a full store management solution, but at its core, it does allow you to accept payments for the goods and services you provide. And it does also help you track your inventory, track your employees, and really manage that overall experience that happens in your physical location. A payment processor can be part of that same point of sale solution. Let's say it's a fully integrated solution. There are some benefits to having both a payment processor and a point of sale as an all-in-one solution. A lot of your point of sale solutions, though, become processor agnostic, which means that you can pick your own payment processor, whether that be a company like Reliable Payments, who's local, your bank, another person that you have a relationship with. And the benefit of that is that your payment processor is actually who negotiates your fees and your costs. They actually physically process that payment. And when it rides on the Visa, MasterCard, Discover rails, there are costs associated to do that, set forth by the bank and the acquirer or Visa, MasterCard. So in order to have one, you have to have the other. And so a point of sale at its core is really just a computer, right? Once you connect payment processing, you now have the ability to process payments virtually, in person, tap on glass on your phone, the options are endless when you can connect the two together.
Awesome. So thanks for breaking that down. So why do many people find payment processing confusing? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Good question. So payment processing can be confusing because of the governing body being Visa, MasterCard, Discover, and American Express. Those are what you call the acquirer. Then you have your banks, your Wells Fargo, City Financial, or Citi, Bank of America, Town Bank, you name it. Those are your issuers, right? They come together and they have basically set a price. It's called interchange. And that's the cost of doing business. That is the cost to ride the rails. Just like you get on the bus, you pay a bus ticket, that is the same thing. Well, there's over 2,000 or 3,000 different interchange pricing. So if you pulled out your credit card today and someone else had a similar credit card, but it was written off of a different bank, might have different rewards, it has a different pricing structure. So I think what makes it confusing for the most part is that there hasn't been a lot of transparency in this industry on what things cost. And so that can be confusing. And then there's also some disruptors that came in years ago and just set a flat rate on processing, which makes sense because you can help back in your margins on certain things, but that may not be the full picture of what your costs are within monthly fees, compliance fees, things like that we will probably discuss today.
Definitely. So what should a brewery look for when choosing a payment processor?
Good question. So, I think there's a few things. When I work with a business, let me put it back to them. My goal is to walk in there and I say, tell me about your business. How do you accept payments for the goods and services you provide? Right? When I'm asking them to tell me about their business, you're allowing your business owner, your nonprofit, to expose themselves and talk about their baby. We all love to talk about our kids. We love to talk about our businesses, even though they can be both very stressful at times. And so with that conversation, it's step one. And when you choose your processor or your provider, it should be a relationship. They should be a consultant or an advocate for your business. They should be educated in what's going on in the landscape of payment processing. What is the right out-of-box solution for your taproom, for example? Asking the right questions can also allow you the opportunity to understand that they go to trade shows. They go to festivals. They have a distribution element. They have an event space. Those are all areas for payment acceptance to happen. Those are all areas for the customer, their customer and user, that user experience to be great or to not be great. So, there will be several folks that walk into a business owner and say, I can save you money. And at its core, I'm sure they can. But truly identifying how, putting them in the right merchant category code, putting them in the right payment setup, whether you're keying payments or swiping cards or a combination of the two, understanding the full scope of the business. Do you have merchandise? Are you an event space? Do you hold tabs? Do you create music nights, etc., trivia nights, where you have to bring in some level of ticket acceptance, right? That to me really is what they should look for. And then you can get down to, how does this solve problems that I may have, or what technologies are available that allow us to consider what the future looks like. And then the last part is transparency in cost on what fee structure that you're currently on.
Are there any other additional questions that you would recommend a brewery ask when, interviewing a potential partner?
I think you should interview your partner and your technology, roughly every 12 to 18 months, in my opinion. You're doing yourself a service by understanding what is out there as far as technology. We all know that it's a challenge to change anything in a business. However, if you're band-aiding for a decision you made a year and a half ago against technology that is updating, look at our smartphones, right? The new version is out often, and then a new phone comes out, right? It's a competition to be what's best for their end user. Same thing in the payment space. I think one great question to ask is, what does it look like when I have an issue? It is still man versus machine, if you will. And the machine will do what it wants to at times. How responsive are you when I do have an issue, right? Are you supporting my business? What does that look like from being a hype person? The last part of it is, what are others like me using in this space, right? What solution are they using, or how are they evolving?
So let's dive a little bit deeper. What's the simplest way to understand like the different pricing models?
Sure. I think in today's environment, I break it down into 3 categories, right? So, several merchants have become more apt to passing along costs. Just like you pass along your sales tax, it is your right to pass along your card processing fees as long as you're doing it compliantly and openly. So breaking it down into 3 categories, you can do what's called dual pricing or a cash discount. So dual pricing would be that you have both prices listed on your menu board, right? So if you have a cost, that cost should be your regular price inclusive of a card fee, $10.40 for an example, and then $10 in cash, right? That would be a full dual pricing model. Folks tend to love that idea or don't love that idea. And so the other element would be a traditional cash discount. This has been operated for years. It is well within Visa's regulations. Essentially everything in your store or your tap room, your menu boards have your price reflective of any and all cost, except for your sales tax, right? So that same beer would be listed at $10.40. And when I pay in cash, I get a benefit, 3-4%, right? So ideally you are covering the cost of your processing within that solution, but you're offering your patron a discount when they actually physically use cash. So that is called commonly dual pricing cash discount. What is not legal per Visa standards is that price is reflective in cash, and then you walk up and they have a price at the register called a non-cash adjustment. A non-cash adjustment 2 years ago, Visa said no more, right? It's not a good look. It's not compliant. Visa could step in, and if you're caught, they could actually assess a fine, pretty hefty fine as well. So, the letter is in the law, the letter is in the conversation there as well. The second category that we classify for pricing is what is called compliant surcharging. So compliant surcharging would be where you could pass along the cost of a credit card transaction at 3%. That Visa says 3% is the max on a compliant surcharge. Alternatively, you are not passing along the cost on any debit transactions. A true compliant surcharge is called a BIN-based surcharge, BIN, standing for bank identification number. Those are essentially the numbers on your card. The first 8 digits of that card tell you what type of card it is and tells you essentially the issuer or the acquirer of those cards. So the system, when you put that card in, would actually compliantly remove any and all cost from that transaction if it was a debit card. Still passing along the cost of a surcharge on credit. Typically, you're seeing, if you're going to this model versus like your traditional model, likely you can get within about 1% of your total spend that month would be your bill. So if it was a $50,000 a month spend, you're probably looking at about a $500 bill on that, which is significantly less than your traditional, which would be the last model. Traditional would be interchange plus. As we talked about a few minutes ago, interchange is the cost to process, the cost to ride those rails, plus your merchant or your payment processor's cost of doing business, right? We have operational costs from risk, compliance, cost of doing business on our side, cost to pay employees, et cetera. So typically when you're looking at interchange plus, you look at 2/3 of your statement and you and I have no control over those costs. Those costs are preset by Visa, MasterCard, Discover, American Express, and the banks. And then there's the last third that really is somewhat negotiable. But if you're working with a company locally and it's a relationship, typically they can go to bat for you a little bit on that side. But you're still looking at today, the cost of doing business could be 3 to 5%. You might have a lower effective rate, but that cost continues to creep with the major card brands. And it really is, it is a cost of doing business because on their side, they do have risk, compliance, security, and things that are input to make sure when I use my card at your location, I grab my beer, somebody else isn't stealing my card information off of that point of sale.
Awesome. A lot of really great information there, Jake. Now, for the breweries out there, how do you recommend they make sure their fees are both transparent but also compliant?
Sure. So, I will speak from experience, as a consultant for business owners. That is one area where we take our most pride, right? And the reason is transparency is everything. Down from when we analyze your statements with whomever you're with, we will actually do a full side-by-side cost comparison, and we'll give you all three pricing structures to look at. Passing along fees on a dual pricing or cash discount, a compliance surcharge, and then the traditional pricing. Again, we have our model, we have our margin, we know what our cost of doing business is and all of those. So when we show it to you, our costs are going to be fully transparent. We play poker with our hands out, right? And so what we're looking at there is our cost, any monthly costs, any compliance or annual costs that may incur. Determining on the point of sale solution that you're working with, we give you a full proposal. And your processor should do the same. When I say we, I'm just speaking from experience, but this would be the same thing that you would want from your processor or your bank or whomever you're working with. They give you a full list of costs, your monthly SaaS or software fees, your monthly hardware cost, any annual upgrade costs that your software or hardware may have, any potential ancillary costs are important to know, because again, if you get into the solution and you forgot to ask whether or not it does gift cards or online ordering or anything of that nature, you should be able to see, okay, well, if I do it, it's going to add $10 or $25 a month to my fixed cost, right? So transparency is everything. And then the compliant element, I had a sticker. When you do a compliance surcharge with our company, for example, we will hand you a sticker that tells your customer everything they need to know about what's going on. Because the last thing you want is to order a drink, buy a shirt, sign up for that live music event, and you get all excited, and then the cost is completely different than what you anticipated, right? So our goal as a trusted payment processor is to keep that transparency. And then when you're in that compliant pricing structure, making sure you have any and all signage, making sure that your staff has talking points, because as you know, customers are always going to have questions, right? Doesn't mean they're challenging you, but they want some clarification. They might have read something on the paper or saw something in the news that said, the way you're charging this cost is illegal. No, Mr. or Miss Customer, it's not, and here's why. And that's 101.
It's always fun to explain that after someone's had a few pints, I imagine.
Yeah, hey, you can challenge yourself to also educate, right? And you can also have that customer calmly understand, like, hey, listen, we on the door or at the register or on your menu, we let you know how the game was played before you had pint one.
There you go. So let's tackle another term that I think we need to dive into deeper. What is PCI compliance? Break it down for us. Make it easy to understand, Jake. Let's go.
Sure. The technical call out is payment card industry data security storage. So it's PCI.
Say that like 10 times really, really fast.
Yeah, I will. And I'll just lay on the floor and crawl into a ball. What this really looks like is this is the governing body that essentially through a questionnaire annually and typically a quarterly or an annual scan, if you're operating off of, let's say, Ethernet, it basically is stating, how secure are you? Are you grabbing my credit card and putting it in a Rolodex? That's a big no-no, right? Because again, anybody could reach over the counter and grab that Rolodex, and now they have access to everybody's card that's sitting in that location. Let's say you're a distributor and you take my card information and you store it on file, and there's a file cabinet behind me. Yes, it's under lock and key, but again, as you know, unless that thing is bolted to the ground, there's a probability that customer information could walk away. So PCI is actually a questionnaire that is asking you, it's a security metric, right? Asking you all the questions on how you transact business. It questions on, are you a third-party transactor? Are you processing cards? Are you receiving card information virtually or any other methods? And so your processor should be able to help you register, should be able to walk you through that questionnaire. Because again, the expectation isn't that you're knowledgeable in this. The expectation is that you aligned yourself with a consultant who has knowledge in this space, who can help you answer these questions to the best of the knowledge. Because again, if you're a tap room or you're a full service restaurant that has a brewery in the back and things of that nature, you don't have the same PCI compliance regulations as somebody who is keying in payments, on a website. So there's a fast pass, right? Answer the right questions, become PCI compliant, and then you're also educating yourself on any potential breaches and why. Wow, I was reading through these and I was taking this questionnaire. That is something I do 10 times a year. Is when Andrew calls me, I take his card information, I write it on a Post-it note, and then I walk over to the point of sale and I run his card. Great, huge risk. Don't do that. If you're going to do all of that, why don't you stand at the point of sale and type in that card if you must, to at least minimize the distance between that transaction, but also know that Andrew's over the phone giving you a card that you can only trust is Andrew's card. So again, it is a wonderful tool to help us all mitigate risk. However, your processor, your customer, or your company that you work with should be able to help you address that every year.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Jake. Now, earlier we mentioned, connecting everything in your ecosystem, a little bit like omni-channel solutions. So how can breweries connect their tap room? Many have a web store and events under one payment processing system.
Yes. So there's several ways that this can be done in the world of integrations these days. Let's say you don't want to change your current system that you're working with. The potential could be that you could work with a company that could create certain plugins for you, right? There are certain point of sales out there that are app-based, similar to your phone. If you want to make your point of sale solution operate with better accounting solutions or e-commerce or events, they are a la carte solutions. Out of the box, they can run payments. They can do some general accounting, inventory, employee clock in and clock out. But at its core, it's a pay to play, which can get very expensive. My opinion on this matter is technology today and the point of sale solutions that are out there should have the ability for you to connect the dots to accept payments in any facet. Food truck, at a festival, in person, distribution, events, merchandise online, possibly connecting the dots to, depending on your state-by-state regulations, the Uber Eats, the DoorDash, the Drizzlies, the things where it allows for pickup or delivery, third party. Those should have connectors as well.
Okay, I've got one question for you. We touched on it a little bit earlier, but I'd like to hear a little bit more from you. So what does good service and support look like from a payment processor?
Yep.
When things go wrong or maybe right, or just general questions?
Yeah. Someone told me that customer service starts when you've managed your first objection together, right? And to me, that term customer service is a bad word in many industries today. Getting on a phone and having super long wait times is very frustrating, especially when you have a line of folks out the door that are just looking to get a beer, right? And so one of the questions you should ask, both from your payment processor and the point of sale solution that you're working with, is what are my response times? Who do I call when I have an issue? And, it's okay for a payment processor like myself, who works with several point of sale solutions, to say, I am not your first touch point, but I need to be touch point A1. Jake, I am on the phone with your tech support team. They're great. We have tier 1 support here locally, so you can contact Reliable Payments at any point in time. But there's not every processor has that type of solution. However, they might have a great point of sale that they recommend. And so that first angle would be contacting that point of sale solution and starting a troubleshoot. Some of them are chat based, some of them are call based. But my question to the brewer taproom provider would be to ask that question: what is our response times? Who do I call? I need a quick cheat sheet right here in front of me. So if it's billing related and I looked at my monthly statement or what was deducted from my bank account or what was added into my bank account as a deposit, who do I call for those questions? Who do I call for general questions? And then who do I call when the place is on fire, right? And that's where its transparency comes back into place. A good solutions provider hands you that without you asking, but it's really good for you to ask those questions.
So, after learning about payment processing the past little while, what do you recommend all of our friends in breweries and tap rooms do after listening to this conversation? Do you have any recommendations, tips, action items for them?
Sure. Educate. We've continued to educate ourselves as consumers. I'm hyper aware for working with business owners for close to 20 years in my in my employment journey. Business owners are very busy. They eat, breathe, and sleep what they do. Their location is their largest asset and greatest liability. So my encouragement is to lean in to technology to use it towards your advantage. However, you don't need every piece of technology that exists today in order to be effective. So educate yourself a bit at any craft beer professional event. Right. There are those of us who float around the rooms that have education that can say, we've explored this solution for several businesses like yourself. This is a really good solution. Part of that would be taking time to be open-minded, right? You liked your processor, you liked your point of sale a few years ago, but maybe that love has faded. They haven't advanced their technology. Your processor's gone. You don't have somebody that's supporting your business. I educate you to explore that locally, right? And to take those calls and at least entertain the conversation. You may learn something. I learn something every day from a business owner just by asking them those questions of, tell me about your business and how do you accept payments for the goods and services you provide? And that last piece of it is, if you do have a great relationship with a provider or a point of sale solution, but your business model is evolving because of the changing in the times, ask those questions. What do you have in the development that would help me grow as a tap room, that would help me grow as a distributor or supplier, right? If you're not asking those questions, they may have a solution already cooking up, or they may have an integration or a plugin that says, yeah, we pulled 1,000 people last year and 999 of them said we needed a better way to integrate to an accounting software. So we found it, or a better way to help with employee clocking in and clocking out. So we went with it. Our inventory wasn't robust, but we worked with a developer and AI and APIs. And all of a sudden we have this nice feature, but it would cost you $49 a month. And we sent that to you in an email 3 months ago. Did you look at it? No, you didn't. So again, asking those questions, being very direct. But I would say this last thing is, if you haven't had a chance to take a look at your fees, take a look at them. If you are shy or weary about passing along costs, consider what the business looks like. Look at other places that are doing it. Ask those business owners about it. Hey, what's been your experience? For every one customer that says, I refuse to pay the credit card fees, and you've challenged them to say, well, you went to Aruba last year on your reward points. How many customers just pay and keep going because they came here for the experience, not necessarily for what things cost, right? And then, in general, reach out. You have several resources locally. You have several resources within Andrew and his team that can help you navigate these conversations, which is why I'm here today. I'm a walking FAQ. I'm very transparent. I love to educate. I'm a student of the game. I love to educate in this space. So if you have a chance to just reach out and talk to me, I'm a good therapist and I'm a good listener, but I'm also going to challenge you on the other side to take those next steps.
So if anyone is interested in taking you up on that offer, what's the best way to contact you, Jake, and learn more?
Absolutely. You can reach out to me at any point in time at jhollingsworth@reliablepayments.com. You can call my business number at 804-840-7016, or you can look us up at reliablepayments.com. We're located here in Richmond.
Awesome, Jake. Well, I appreciate the conversation today. Thanks for educating all of us. And I look forward to sharing a pint before too long. I mean, we're only 90 miles apart, so hopefully it happens sooner than later.
Absolutely. We need to make that happen very soon.
Awesome. Well, cheers, everybody. Have a great one. See you soon.
Yeah. Cheers.
Bye. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this session, we'd love to see you in real life. We host in-person workshops across the country for craft beer professionals just like you that are held in some of the most exciting beer destinations around. These immersive events are designed to help you grow and connect with others. You'll meet peers from across the country and leave with actionable strategies for success. Connection has never been more important, and you can learn more at cbpconnects.com. Cheers. See you there.